Hello, welcome to the 7.5 release. So obviously the big feature in this release is the Mailchimp integration. So a lot of good improvements there to really make that much more usable. But there are plenty of other little good enhancements in this release as well. So let's dive in. We'll look at the Mailchimp integration first. So I think that there's two major factors with this one. Firstly, we're able to bring in mailing lists from Mailchimp after the fact. You don't have to set up or connect to Mailchimp and connect to the list initially. So you can actually now create lists in WebinOne or import lists from Mailchimp, and you can have multiple lists. So before it was very restricted in once you'd set up that list, that was kind of it. So we have the ability to now add from Mailchimp, and that will connect to your account. Of course, once you've connected via the API provider section, that's the same as before. You would enter your Mailchimp keys into there, and now we can directly add any mailing list you have in that account. The other little enhancement here is that we have a subscriber count column, so you can see how many subscribers on that list. And the other big improvement here is the ability to utilize tags in a much better way than before. But before I look at the tags, we'll just look at the rest of the features of the mailing list themselves. So when you do have a list or you import one, we now have the ability to not having a double opt-in, which is a single opt-in. So just when they subscribe, they will be subscribed. Or you can have the double opt-in enabled, so they will receive an email from Mailchimp asking to confirm, and then they have to follow that process to be subscribed to the list. And that was always the default method. And then under that, we have the tags. So how this is working currently is you can create new tags in WebinOne. When you create those tags, they're available for you to select in the form builder. So just take a quick look. So you obviously still got the mailing list field to select, but when you do that, you'll also have the tags, any tags you've created for that specific mailing list, they'll be available here to select as well, so that when someone uses this particular form to subscribe, they will get the tags that you've selected here to be used. Okay, so in terms of how the sort of syncing works now, so these tags that you create just live within WebinOne until someone subscribed with them. And then when the syncing happens from either the WebinOne CRM or the Mailchimp list, that's when the tags will come across. So if you've set up tags in WebinOne, then someone subscribes, then they'll get sent to Mailchimp as well, synchronized with Mailchimp, and that tag will be brought along with them. So the tags themselves don't get synchronized from either end, just they go across with the contact records. So as it's saying here, when someone subscribes to, say, via the form in WebinOne, obviously it will subscribe in the mailing list in Mailchimp as well, but also for unsubscriptions. So if you unsubscribe someone from the mailing list, either side, that will sync to both databases as well. So there's a whole new sync section with some options. So if I head back to the email marketing and the lists, so when you click into one of the lists, you obviously can see the subscriber list, and then there's this new tab for Mailchimp Sync. So what will happen every 24 hours, it will automatically synchronize. If there's any new subscribers on any list, they will synchronize, so the list will stay the same. However, there may be some mismatches in, I guess, maybe if someone does a typo in their name, or they have a phone number, you have a phone number field set up in Mailchimp, and it's different to the one in WebinOne, then they will be detected. So you'll get a list sort of looking like this that highlights these mismatches. And you can drill down and see the exact reason why they're mismatching, and it will show, their name or last name or phone numbers different. And you can choose how you want to how you want to go forward with that synchronization. So on an individual contact record, you could manually say, okay, I want the name from Mailchimp, but we'll keep the last name and phone number from WebinOne, and then you can synchronize that contact. Or you can bulk apply the same rule and either keep all the information that's in WebinOne, that's the master record, so we'll keep everything there, or you can say, no, Mailchimp is the source of truth, so we'll switch and apply all the changes from Mailchimp and then synchronize those all in one go. So that's a nice little feature there to keep your lists well and truly in sync. Okay, I think these buttons will go through and apply the changes in here, and then you would synchronize once you're happy to perform that action. Okay, next. So as I said with the tag synchronization, that you can add those in either Mailchimp or WebinOne, and they'll sync when contacts basically use those tags. And the other thing you can do is bulk add tags to users. So particularly handy if you've already got Mailchimp set up and you haven't been able to really manage the tags contacts have. So now when you're looking at the subscriber list in your particular mailing list, we can go ahead and select multiple records, and then down the bottom here, you can unsubscribe in bulk, or you can add tags. So based on the tags that have come in or you've created, you can assign those in bulk to particular users as well. And then we have the mailing lists field in the form builder. So that's what I showed previously with the form builder, just how that works. Basically select the mailing list the same as before, but you get the option to select which tags are applied. Okay, so some really critical features there with the Mailchimp integration, which will help make that a lot more usable now, a lot more flexible. Okay, moving along to the WYSIWYG editor for all admin code editors. So I think this probably came about from these Mailchimp integration changes, because when you look at creating email campaigns within WebinOne, which is still a little bit limited, but if you're creating your actual email campaigns in the WebinOne interface, the code editor there basically was just a code editor. So if we went to the content tab, you would have to just code all this in code view. So now the WYSIWYG mode has come into this editor as well to make that a bit more intuitive for end users to design their email campaigns. It's also flowed through to all content fields throughout the admin. So all content fields or areas now will have the WYSIWYG applied. And another little upgrade to the code editor is full screen mode. So everywhere also now has the ability to put that into full screen mode, whether with WYSIWYG or in code view. So that just gives you a lot more space to work with code if you're doing that, because some of these windows can get a little bit small. Okay, so moving along, next we have the multiple data source property. So this is a great enhancement. I'm just going to jump to my other site here. So for custom modules with custom properties, you might want to set up a data source that links to another custom module. And this was always restricted just to one item. If you wanted to connect to multiple items, you'd have to set up multiple data source properties. But now we can have the one property where you can select multiple items within that. So how this works is, let's say I've got a team custom module and a services custom module. Let's say we want to assign different services to different team members, showing off their skill sets or what have you. And of course, they may have multiple services that team member can action or work on. So now we just need the one field for assigning all those services to the team member. So in the custom properties, the settings, let's say I create a new property, and we want to just say services. And so we want this to be a data source, and we want to select the services custom module. So that's all the same as before, but now we have the multiple option. So ticking that will allow us to select multiple items within that services custom module. Save that. So when we're looking at a particular team member here, I can come down and say, okay, we want them to be assigned to design and development, and we add that. So it's kind of like the tag assignment interface, and we can just keep selecting different ones, just making sure to add those. So I think this was a really neat way to do it as well, rather than having checkboxes within this list, because obviously if you're connecting to another custom module, there could be thousands of items within the list. So that would have been fairly hard to manage. So this is a nice way to do that, I think. And of course, we can just remove items as well. And when you're now using that in Liquid, that's going to come out as an array. So you'll need to like loop through those items rather than just having the one item where you can get the ID, the name, or the URL link. So really good update there. Next, we have system emails and autoresponder test button. So another great feature here. So if you're creating your email notifications, your workflow notifications, or your autoresponders for a form. So let's look at the system emails here and the workflow. It's often tricky to visualize or test how this form's going to actually come out in the email. So you've got a different template applied, so that's not showing here. You've got content here with Liquid, and the only real way to test that is to go and actually submit the form with a test user and dummy data and all that sort of stuff. So, and then you start building up all these submissions in the admin, and it can get a little bit messy, a little bit annoying. So now we have a test button where we can just directly from here send a test, and it will just use dummy data where it needs to. So in doing this, we can select an email address that we want it to go to. So hit send. Okay, and we get an email, which I'll just bring up here. So this is just the real design applied to this site at the moment, but you can see that it's just thrown in dummy data here, and it just fills it in for whatever fields that might be possible to give you a good understanding on how that will process and how that will display in your email setup. So that's really handy just for quickly checking that your layout's working well, design's looking all right, without having to keep submitting those forms over and over again. Now, of course, if you've got custom code that's has conditions and whatnot in it based on what is being submitted, then of course you still need to test with a real form submission. But at least this gets you most of the way there in terms of layout. So that's a really handy feature. So this works for forms as well. It's with the autoresponder. So once you have an autoresponder set up, we can use the send test email for that email as well. Okay, next we have the control auto-generated SEO content. So by default, when you're creating an item or a page and you're setting up your SEO content, title, description, and even your Open Graph values, the metadata tag that's needed to display those items would automatically be added to your template once you added data here. The title tag is always added automatically, whether you have any information here at all. If you don't have any info, it'll use the item name as the title. So that's done automatically, and generally that's probably what you're going to want. There's some cases though where you want to set up your own processes for dynamically coming up with that data, or some other way that you're adding that, and you want more control, so you can actually turn that off. So in the site settings under SEO, there's now a checkbox to auto-generate the SEO content. So not to be confused that that's going to automatically generate like the SEO tags and keywords and title and description for you. It's it's auto-generating the actual meta tag, the code that's needed to put that into your template head section. So by default it's on, and that's how it's currently working. So, but if you turn that off, it applies site-wide. So no information that you enter into the SEO tabs will now display on your items or pages. So you need to make sure that you're putting that dynamically into your templates. So most likely using liquid and conditions to show that. So just handy feature there just to give you that bit more control in if you're really customizing your templates. Okay, next we have extending the DateTime field support for form fields. So when you're setting up a form with a date field, so let's add a custom field here, just call it date, and you would select the DateTime field. So previously that would just add a date field, and the default behavior of most browsers is to display a date picker. Most of the time that's fine, but in some cases you actually want the time selection as well. And we would then have to have a separate custom field with, you'd either break up the date into hours, minutes, or whatever, or either way you needed some other field, some other process to collect that time data. Now actually by default it will be a date time field. So without doing anything else, if you just add this to the form, the input will be a date time local field. And by default, most browsers will show both the date and a time interface for selecting the whole date and time value. If you don't want that, you can select date only, and it will go back to being just a date field. Any existing fields you have set up will, of course, stay as they are. You don't have to come in here and select date only. Going forward, this just gives you that extra flexibility there with selecting the date and times. And if you're not sure on the exact technical differences, there's a link here to the HTML spec for DateTime local and date input types. It's interesting to look into how those actually work. If you're working with dates and collecting dates, there's some technical nuances there that you may need to look at. Okay, next we have liquid file list access. So this was a previous feature in the documentation. I'll just quickly find it. So it's a component tag that we can use for listing out the file system. So you select a folder and then it will list the details of any files that are within that folder that you've specified. And this can be handy for just creating little galleries, simple galleries, or file lists without having to create a module and add all those items individually. So that's always been existing. There's no changes to that. It's just that it's now available on the business plan. They've lowered the plan level needed to access and use that module. And then lastly, just a handful of bug fixes. So have a read through those if they affect you. Okay, and that's everything in 7.5 release. Thank you.